if you look at the weight of the statement that was made, does a apology settle the score?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm scandalized by the conduct of a minority in Parliament, which is obviously just fishing for scandals. And when it's unable to find the scandals, it comes up with all kinds of conjectures and has no respect, sometimes, even for the law. It must be worrying for everybody. And I think it's about time that we told the minority in Parliament that their duty in Parliament is not to manufacture scandals. Their duty in Parliament is not to do the kinds of things that they're doing in Parliament, but to focus attention on the felt needs of their constituents and Ghana as a whole. You see, what does an apology do in this matter? What does an apology do in this matter? Does an apology actually correct the harm that has been done? Because part of the harm which has been done is that the credibility of Parliament itself is tested when these statements are made. You understand? And so many things have happened within the last few months that must be exceedingly worrying to all of us. For example, when parliamentarians deliberately and willfully break the law, it must be of concern to us. They are the lawmakers. You see, during the State of the Nation address, the minority actually went to Parliament with cocoa pots. Do you know that that's an infringement of the law? There's a law passed by the National Liberation Council which makes it an offense to pluck or harvest and ripen cocoa. And the minority went into Parliament with unripened cocoa. Clear violation of the law. And then they do this, and every time they say, oh, we are sorry, we apologize, the Speaker is so happy, he says, oh, matters die. Look, we are not sitting in the village chief's court. That's not where we are sitting. We are sitting in Parliament, a National Assembly. That's where we are. In a village, chief's court, you may apologize and send a bottle of schnapp and fowls and so on. But we are sitting in a national parliament. And we expect some actions to be taken, and we expect some wrongs to be rectified. Yeah. When the minority leader, for example, presented himself at the ECOWAS court, and the Speaker referred the matter to the Privileges Committee, what happened? Do you know? I don't know. So I think that we should take Parliament more seriously than we're doing now. Parliament is an important house where laws are made. It's an important house where major national records are kept and preserved. You understand? I think we should take Parliament seriously. The minority must understand that this is not the way to win elections. This is not the way to come to power. The way to come to power is to present a credible alternative platform and program to the existing one. You understand? These things don't help us in any way. Instead of breaking the law, carrying and wrapping cocoa pots to Parliament and so on, they should have gone to Parliament with a credible analysis of the cocoa industry, showing us how it is possible to pay the cocoa farmer more than what the cocoa farmer is being paid today. They don't have that. It is not possible to produce a credible alternative. Because the world market price of cocoa has tumbled. All the producer countries are thinking about doing what Ghana has done. La Côte d'Ivoire clearly is thinking about doing what Ghana has done. To the extent that cocoa smuggling from La Côte d'Ivoire, I'm told, is on the rise because Ghana's price is better than La Côte d'Ivoire. So what all these shenanigans about? And sometimes the recourse to ethnicity is shocking.
It's so shocking.
This is the minority leader in Parliament virtually calling on others to rise against a division of government because one of the characters in play is an ever. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked to the marrow. Is this how they intend to come to power? What do they take the people of Ghana for? They take the people of Ghana for yo-yos. You can say anything, do anything, lie, make false statements and so on, and they think that will bring them to power. They're deceiving themselves.
See how many parliament will federate. Because I have my observation. Look, the apology for me, unless the argument is that they've apologized, fine. The records expunged. What about the public domain? And do they even consider the public sentiment, the perceptions within the public space?
You see, we have allowed some of the political leaders to get away with many things.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I mean, not too long ago, a political party leader, a member of the National Executive Council of a political party, a regional chairman of a political party, publicly claimed that the vice president is the wife of the president. You remember? And nothing happened. He just laughed about it. This is blatant disinformation. You know, another one actually said that the vice president is not a Fanti, is not from the central region, it's a Northerner. So what? Let us assume that it's even true that she's a Northerner, so what? And they get away with this. You know, they get away with these kinds of statements. Why do we allow them to get away with these kinds of statements? I can't understand.
Even that is in the public domain. Let the public deal with it. But in Parliament, you see, members of Parliament, when they get elected into Parliament, must appreciate the sanctity of the House, the place of the House in our governance architecture. They must, and the weight that has been put. The weight of responsibility that have been imposed on them. It seems they don't appreciate that.
Alaji Muntaka says he has accepted the apology. What is his locus? He, as Minister of Interior, what is his locus? Has he got the right to accept any apology? The offense was not directed at him. It's an offense which is directed at Parliament and Ghana. He has no locus whatsoever to accept or reject the apology. Alaji Muntaka, he says he has accepted the apology. So what?
Ghanaians, a lot of Ghanaians, you know, have come out to express dissatisfaction and rather calling for more into this. And I want to start with Alaji on this. You have been involved in the parliamentary affairs. I don't know what you make of the apology that was rendered and the subsequent calls by a section of Ghanaians for more, you know, investigations onto the allegations that he made.
So, first of all, Parliament is a house of rules. The most critical legislation that regulates the conduct of members of Parliament is the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and the Parliamentary Standing Orders. Now, I'll give you one example. If a member of Parliament absents him or herself from Parliament for a number of days without written permission of the Speaker and without a reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee, that member of Parliament seat can be declared vacant. My interest now is without reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee. Because that conduct, such a conduct will be an affront to the dignity of Parliament. And so it's a conduct that is a subject matter of investigation by that will be a subject matter of investigation by the Privileges Committee. Again, you can utter false and misleading statements in Parliament. If you utter false and misleading statements in Parliament, you will be in contempt of Parliament. That conduct will be contemptuous of Parliament, because the business of Parliament is a serious business. That the country invests a lot of money in getting the legislature, which is a critical arm of government, to be in place. And because they are representing all of us, we expect that when they are discussing matters of national importance, they will be candid, truthful on the floor of the House and attach some level of seriousness to their work. And so if you get to Parliament as a member of Parliament and you are in the business of uttering falsehood or misleading statements on the floor of the House, it will be contemptuous. You'll be scandalizing Parliament. You'll be lowering Parliament in the estimation of right-thinking men. That's why that conduct will be punishable. So we had Afenyo Markin. And I must hasten to add, to be honest with you, that I have a very low opinion of Afenyo Markin. To be honest with you, in 2015, 2016, thereabouts, he committed a similar offense in Parliament, and I was in Parliament. And I was a person who got up and moved a motion to refer that conduct to the Privileges Committee. But the Speaker, because it was infascia, because what I was complaining about happened in the presence of the Speaker and whatnot, and had gotten up. The Speaker then was of the view that he should withdraw that statement. And then he did. Because it was simply misleading. It was not true. So, and subsequently, I'll give you another example. We have a Parliament of Ghana, and we have the ECOWAS Parliament. The ECOWAS Parliament is constituted by members from the national parliaments. And the members of the national parliaments are determined by the parliament sitting as parliament. That no one has the right to choose himself or elect himself to represent the country. Because when you get to the ECOWAS Parliament, you are not going there as a member of parliament or member of parliament. You are going as the Ghana delegation to the parliament.
Ghana delegation nominated by
parliament to the ECOWAS Parliament. And what did we see again? When the Ghana Parliament took a decision to constitute the membership of the ECOWAS Parliament and did not include Afenyo Markin, he treated the resolution of Parliament with contempt by presenting himself to the ECOWAS Parliament as representing Ghana. Again, that's contemptuous of Parliament. That's why, so when I say I have a very low opinion of him, that's why I say so. Now, the president makes a State of the Nation address, and it will be debated. Okay, but because of leadership privileges granted leadership, even in the presence of the president, you are allowed to make some comments. And in making those comments, he imports into Parliament statements that are untrue. They are misleading. They are false about the recruitment into the security services. A figment of his own imagination. No foundation whatsoever.
That has not been established yet.
That's not been established. That's why he's apologized. That's why he's apologized. It's not there. And so that conduct arising from the standing orders is contempt of Parliament. It's contempt of Parliament. And so his conduct was referred to the Privileges Committee. And that's where that ought to have been the case. And my beef with Parliament is what happened subsequently. It's my view that when the Speaker, sitting as Speaker, refers the conduct of a member of Parliament to the Privileges Committee, the process has been triggered. The Speaker cannot recall that referral unless there's a motion challenging the referral of the conduct of that member to the Privileges Committee. Why is this so? It's simply because no one wants to bastardize the processes. You can't approve it and reprove it. So when you do that, in law we say you become fontus officio. Immediately you refer the conduct, you become fontus officio. Your function as a speaker is ended. You have triggered. So that's all. Until a report comes back from the Privileges Committee, then your mandate to discuss that matter in Parliament is evoked or invoked. But, well, Parliament, they always hide under a general phrase. Parliament is a master of its own rules to bastardize the processes. And that's what happened when they referred the conduct of the former member of Domi, Kwabena constituency, to the Privileges Committee. Up to now, we have not gotten a report on that. We have not. In the clear face of the provisions of the Constitution, which frowns upon such conduct, it makes it mandatory for the conduct of that member to be referred to the Privileges Committee. We have not. Again, when Afenyo Markin presented himself before the ECOWAS Parliament as representing Ghana and being part of the delegation of the Ghana Parliament, his conduct was referred to the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee is yet to. But be as it may, again, I heard Muntaka saying that he had accepted the apology. Then I said, but was it the contempt against Muntaka?
It's against Parliament.
It's against Parliament. He's not being held for defaming a member of Parliament. So it's not an exercise or a suit in defamation. It is on contempt of Parliament. So I fail to see again how the minister came in to accept the apology. The Speaker and the leadership of Parliament ought to have accepted the apology and then call on Muntaka to make a statement. But yes, the Muntaka was tangential to the statements being made, but that contempt was a contempt of Parliament and not a contempt of a member of Parliament. The rules don't say that if a member is defamed by another member of Parliament, that member of Parliament should be referred to the Privileges Committee. The rules don't say that. Say that if a member is in contempt of Parliament. So that's it. So, well, it's apologized, Parliament has accepted. Like I said, they will say that they are a master of their own rules. And so, who are we? But we expect that the rule of law should always be allowed to prevail in circumstances of this nature. Thank you.
You know, because a lot of people are arguing that, look, because of the seriousness of the allegations that he made, one against the named ministers, and in fact, a label on government, we're expecting that some investigations would have been carried through, at least just to clear the matter and settle the score, that the allegations that he made were non-existent. But as we speak currently, we are left in the middle. As whether that thing happened or did not happen, nobody knows except that the apology has been accepted. Would you have wished for some kind of investigation just to settle the matter?
Well, first of all, my knowledge of the situation is that the Honorable Afenyo Markin made one allegation. And the allegation was against the Ministry of Interior in reference to the recruitment exercise that was currently ongoing. And he referred to it as a scam. He described some of the new measures that had been put in place and called it a scam. I think what immediately preceded that was the Minister for Interior, Honorable Muntaka, on the floor of Parliament, explaining some innovations that they had brought in to improve the recruitment process. Some of the innovations he brought was that, one, they increased the locations, they reduced the numbers of people at the time who are going for the various stages of, the recruitment process and all that. And talked about the innovations. And he said this in reference to the stages that had already passed, and was now speaking about the final step, which was going to be an aptitude test that had to be taken by the prospective candidates. They had to go online and answer some questions. They were going to be marked, and purely on merit, the successful candidates would emerge. Then the Honorable Minority Leader made that accusation, calling it a scam. When I heard it, I was very disturbed. Very, very disturbed. I was very disturbed for one reason. When it comes to recruitment into the security agencies, it is a big deal in Ghana. Yeah. Big deal. I have contested for parliamentary candidate before, twice. And I tell you, in the course of your campaign, one of the biggest requests and reminders you have is the young people telling you, I want to be recruited into police or fire service or military.
Oh, I thought we were in the north, we those in the north.
Maza!
Because this was what our distance.
It is all over. It is all over. All over Ghana. Yeah. All over Ghana. It is a big deal. Very big deal. You see? So the emotions and passions of many of our young people, because of the level of unemployment and the desperation for employment, is so high when it comes to that. And we have seen it demonstrated when it comes to recruitment exercises, year in, year out. You see the thousands of young people standing in the sun, culminating to the very unfortunate incident that happened last year. Very unfortunate. Where we lost young people who had just simply gone to go and apply. And the number of vacancies available as against the number of people, I mean, there are more than 10 times the number of vacancies available. So that tragic incident caused a complete review of the process. The NDC want to take some credit and say it was a reset. Well, that is to them. But a new process was brought about, which made it very smooth. And indeed, I tell you, although I'm not contesting for any parliamentary position, I am, as Afenyo in Cape Coast, I'm still in touch with many of our young people. And many of them have still got high hopes of going to the military. And many of them are very satisfied that the process is more comfortable and transparent, and even to the fact that when they go for the various steps that they go through in the recruitment exercise, sometimes they are given water. They are allowed to sit comfortably. That alone gives them some reassurance. You see? So when I heard my good friend, the Honorable Afenyo Markin, make that comment, I was very worried. Because you see, don't underestimate the tension among the young people of Ghana. It is serious. Nobody should underestimate it. So if we have a situation where there is something happening that they are beginning to get some semblance of faith and confidence in, and then they hear from no other, hey, it is serious. It is serious. So I am happy that at the end of the day, he came out of his own free will and explained that, look, what he said was wrong, and he has apologized. I commend him for that, and I'm happy. You see, I'm happy that he did that. So I'm happy for him. But you see, the lesson in that also is that, like my other good friend here is saying, he has very little. He has his own opinion of the minority leader because of what he has been doing. Certain things that he has observed with him over time. It should be a lesson to all of us. You know? And I will say to my friend, the Honorable Afenyo Markin, I will make a quotation which I know he will understand. And I will say this: as a brother, you do to your brother as you wish he would do to you in a similar situation. Yes, he apologized to Honorable Muntaka, and Muntaka accepted it, notwithstanding the technical shenanigans. He accepted it. But you see, at the time the apology was offered and accepted, there was another issue too that was on the floor of the House, which also happened on the same State of the Nation address. The minority, led by the minority leader, Afenyo Markin himself, were very unhappy with their brothers on the other side, the majority members, that they had put up a picture of the former finance minister, Ken Ofori Atta, and called him a criminal. And they were very upset. And they were upset to the extent that they actually made reference to Ken Ofori Atta's brother, the younger brother, who is also a member of parliament. And they expressed their displeasure. The majority too, on their part, said, okay, fine. We appreciate your displeasure. We respect the feelings of your member. We won't do that again. That was fine. So yes, as human beings, the two sides, they went through excesses. They must take a lesson from what has happened. Particularly what the minority leader said, because frankly, that statement, when I heard it, it was very explosive. And it could have had consequences for this country. I'm telling you. Look at the thousands of people who go and risk their life. They go and stand from the night before, without a seat. They stand, rain or shine, waiting to fill a form or buy a form. Then you go and tell them that it was a sham, it was dangerous. So I'm happy it has happened. Another bright side I want to mention was that yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, when I was to East, they had the by-election.
The day before yesterday.
Tuesday, yeah. When they had the by-election. I saw two beautiful women chatting and hugging each other. The Honorable Hopeson and the Greater Accra Regional Minister, two political opponents. And they were being so nice. And it was nice, it was good. We got the audio of their conversation and their laughter. This is the kind of thing we want to see. Yes, they're political opponents, but they're not at war, you know. And these are helpful and healing to the country. Not the kind of comment that my friend made. And I'm happy that he has apologized. Honorable Muntaka too accepted it. And then the speaker also said it must be expunged from the records of the House. So that's my position on it.
Even people even have worries with that, because if you expunge it from Parliament's record, it's still in the public domain, social media and the rest. It's all over the place.
As for that one, yes, that one, there's nothing you can do about it. That's what it is.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.